my most memorable experiences would be with my friends, probably on some of the school camps and retreats where you actually took time to sit and reflect on, the significance and the impact of the friendships that we'd made. While I was at Loreto, one of the things that I was really fortunate to have the opportunity was to take on various roles of leadership. And I probably didn't do that in the early years of, my time at Loreto, but as I was getting into year 9 and 10 and then 11 and 12, I would have a role perhaps as the student representative council, or I was the vice or deputy school captain. And that experience in just, being the spokesperson and representing the school and leading the students was really invaluable to take forward. And I think that's something that Loreto does incredibly well. And recognising people's talents, whether it's artistic or humanities, music, sports, academic, and really celebrating all of those successes. And I think that that's what we want to be thinking about as we move into our careers, is encouraging people for what their individual talents are. One of the really key things that I developed during my time at Loreto was that sense of questioning why things are the way they are, and perhaps not always accepting what has been, this is the way it's always been done, therefore this is the way we should continue to do it. And that's something that I have done throughout my career. It's always questioning, is this the best way to do this? Should we look at this differently? Is there another way that could have a better outcome? And that's been a really important learning for me. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do when I was finishing year 12. I knew that I wanted a career that would allow me to help people, and I thought it was going to be a healthcare pathway, and that's why I went on to study pharmacy, but realised that actually perhaps it was the underlying science that was driving how medicines are made and discovered that ultimately sort of put me on a path towards being a pharmaceutical scientist. So one of the big areas of research that I've been involved in for perhaps the last 10 years or so has been looking at making medicines more accessible for women in particular in developing countries. And that's given me the chance to travel all around the world and into countries that perhaps I otherwise wouldn't have visited. And it was interesting, I was in India a few years ago, and I remember driving along, or I was a passenger, the traffic's all a bit hectic, and in front of me was a bus, a Loreto bus, and I just felt drawn to that. I wanted to follow the bus and go to Loreto to talk to the people there. And I think that speaks to that Loreto spirit too, is wanting to belong and know people. One of my most memorable times in my career was I was attending a conference in Washington DC, and it was actually a conference to pitch a research idea for funding, and they brought all of the finalists together in Washington DC for 2 days. And then you had a 12-minute interview, and it was that 12-minute interview that would decide whether you got the funding or not. And I was incredibly nervous about it, and it felt like being a student again. But the conference had gone really well, the interview went well, and in fact the innovation that we'd pitched in that proposal was nominated as the innovation most likely to transform maternal and neonatal health. And that award was presented to me by Hillary Clinton. And so that was just a really surreal moment to kind of think, I'm sitting here in the Ronald Reagan building and sort of having a photo taken with Hillary Clinton. So it was a really super memorable moment for me. So in the process of working on the oxytocin project, I have had the opportunity to visit countries such as India and Tanzania, Uganda, Bangladesh, Brazil, and you get to see so much, and I've learnt so much more about other cultures and the importance of culture and tradition. And so it's been very much a personal development for me to have that experience. At times it has been very confronting, and I think I probably wasn't well prepared for that before going into that situation. One of the most difficult times that I remember, we were in Uganda in one of the largest hospitals. They deliver over 36,000 babies every year, but they at times can struggle with resources and good quality medicines, and they may not have the blood they need for transfusions. And when they need blood donors, they go to the schools because they're looking to get blood donations from younger children before they've reached a stage where they are at risk of having a blood-borne virus that might be a problem with blood transfusions. So during the school holidays, they often don't have the blood they need for the women in the hospital. And there was one time we went into the ward, into the labour delivery ward, and the obstetrician who was with us leant over and just quietly said there was a woman in active labour in a lot of pain, and the baby was stuck, and they couldn't get the baby out. The baby had died. The mother didn't know that yet, and he said he didn't think they'd be able to save the mother either. And I found that really very, very difficult to be there and to be so helpless and see somebody in front of me that I couldn't help, and you want to help but you can't. And my appreciation for the healthcare workers in those countries is just phenomenal, because they have to make such difficult decisions every day. If they have 3 women who need an emergency surgery but they only have 1 surgery suite, they have to choose who lives and who dies, and they might choose the quickest surgery because that might mean they can do 2 surgeries, but that means the 3rd person doesn't get that opportunity. And so, after some of those trips, I've really had to take some time for just personal contemplation, and then you come back home to a world where we're so lucky and we have so much, and in fact we've got everything in excess. And so I usually come home, and that's when I sit down with the kids and tell them not all the details of what I've seen, but just how different it is for people in different locations around the world. I still feel that I've got a lot more to do in my career, and I'm passionate about what I do. I love going to work every day, and I feel really fortunate to be one of those people who gets paid to do what they love doing. But there's still so much more to do, and one thing that I'm really keen on doing within the university is working with other academics to understand how to work with philanthropists and trusts and foundations, because the way research is funded is going to change in the future. It needs to change, and that's an area that I love working with our donors, and you build a relationship with them and they become part of the journey of your research. And so that's an area I'm really keen to contribute to. And I'm also really enjoying working with the Victorian government, trying to help the Victorian economy and strengthen it around its pharmaceutical and medical technologies, developing the workforce to come into those companies, helping them create new and better formulations. So there's still a lot to do, and while I'm still passionate and love going to work every day, then that's what I'll keep doing. I think one of the key things to inspire young women to participate in science is to present them with role models and let them see that there is a career path there, and you know, wherever we can, we find opportunities to engage with schools and invite groups of students to come into the university. Or I love to go out to schools, and particularly girls' schools, and talk to them about science and the research and the pathways that are there, because there's just so many areas that women can be a part of and continue to make a big difference in the world.